one of the things that we're hearing quite a bit now from our clients that are in longer term leases, and they may be halfway through or a quarter of the way through, and have a decent amount of term left on their lease, is that they're feeling stuck. So what are some of the opportunities that we've seen for clients that are in that situation to figure out what strategies, what are their options? I know, Doug, you had a recent opportunity to help a client navigate something like that. You share a little bit?
Mike, I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. We're in this environment where a lot of things have changed in the past few years. Interest rates are up, cash flows are down, and we had a recent example of a company that had about 30,000 square feet. They had actually 3 years remaining on their lease, and they felt like they were stuck. And in this case, they didn't want to change the space they were in, but we restructured the lease 3 years early, where their rate came down slightly. We had a nice tenant improvement package that they didn't really need, and we converted most of that into additional concessions. And then we also had free rent stacked on top of that. Right. So when you put all that together, they had a really aggressive new effective rate. And in this particular case, the company was private equity backed. So, they'll have an event coming associated with the private equity investment, and that side of it looked at the savings at a significant multiple to what we were really saving. So the whole thing really worked out. It was a win-win really for both sides, because the landlord also had a loan event coming in a couple of years, and this really stabilized their asset. So it worked really well for both sides.
I have a client that it has a little bit longer on their lease, about 6 years left, and it's too much space for them. Even though it's beautiful space and beautiful furniture, but their people aren't coming to the office. So they asked us to underwrite a scenario where they sublease their space, and if they do find a subtenant, then they could go relocate their office to another submarket. That would be a more dynamic and compelling experience for their employees, and hopefully bring everybody back to the office at least a few days a week. And we have been successful in subleasing their space, and now we are in the market and looking for the right fit, and we are seeing landlords come after the deal with very exciting concession packages like you're talking about. So that's another opportunity. Doesn't always work for everybody, but in this case, it's a good outcome.
Yeah, I'd say one of the opportunities, depending on the building, if it's in higher demand, it's say that we have tenants that are maybe in too much space, but they're in a nice building. The other tenants in the market want to be in that building. If they have too much space, not necessarily having to sublease their space, but just doing a clean contraction of their space and giving it back to the landlord, and maybe extending for a period of time, and then revamping the environment that they're in early, but right-sizing their space. So that way they experience really meaningful cost savings, but they also get an upgrade in the environment that they're offering to their team. We understand the situations that our clients are in. It can feel like you're absolutely stuck or trapped when you've signed this long-term lease. The market has changed around you. Your business has begun to evolve, and you don't know what options you have. And so one of the things that us as a team, we're really great at, which we appreciate, is the opportunity to come alongside of our clients, understand what those changes are, and then we align the strategy for their space around that, to show them that, hey, maybe you need to sublease your space. Maybe the landlord's willing to do a clean contraction, or maybe you can downsize into another space and let your lease even ride out, and it can still make sense depending on if the new owner is going to offer enough free rent to offset that. But regardless, we like to identify what are the opportunities available to you that you might not think are right there and obvious, and help you seize that opportunity.